Good morning. It is March 31st, 2024, and it is Easter today. So we are very happy to be celebrating Easter with you today. And I'm going to, our talk is entitled, our talk is entitled Eternal Life. And so I'd like to begin by reading a quote from a Unity minister who is no longer with us, but he used to speak from a very large church in New York City, and his name was Eric Butterworth. And Eric had this to say about Easter. He said, metaphysically, Easter is the awakening and arising to spiritual consciousness and the Christ within us. When we are, quote, born again, unquote, metaphysically, we see a new spiritual dimension. From this spiritual place in our hearts and minds, we know the kingdom of God is within us. As Jesus taught, anything is possible. Through the resurrection, Jesus demonstrated that the life of God is changeless and eternal. For each of us, that the life of God is changeless and eternal for each of us because of our divinity. With all the mysteries of life and death, you can trust that our souls are immortal. End of quote.
That's powerful. And it really summarizes Easter.
Yeah.
Easter really is, in my thinking, is not just about the resurrection, in that the story of Jesus having died and having continued on after death to show. Whether that's a story, whether that's exactly what happened, nobody knows. But what I believe that that's really about is that life is a continuum. We do not die when our physical body passes over. We are multidimensional, and we will always be multidimensional. I had the occasion some time ago to be called to the hospital to join the family as they were getting ready to say their farewell to a person who was on life supports, and they were going to discontinue the life support so she could pass because there was nothing else left for her to do. And the moment her last breath was concluded, I saw a light, literally a spark of light, leave her body and go up. And I wasn't the only one that saw it. Another person on the other side of the room said, "Did you see that?" And I said, "Yes, I saw that." And it speaks to the eternality of life. And I think what's important about the eternality of life is if this is a class we're taking called this lifetime, is a class that we've signed up for, there's a graduation. And the things that we do in this life, they make a difference. They make a difference to our heart and soul and our beingness. And so if we are thinking about our forever life, I think we behave differently than if we think about, well, I can do whatever I do, and if I get away with it, fine, and if I don't, then I'll pay the price in this lifetime. The truth is, the price we pay for the behaviors that we don't actually approve of either, that we may participate in, we can both do things we don't believe we should be doing and do them anyway, is that lesson hasn't been learned by us. And the lesson that we have to learn, either in this life or in the next dimension, or maybe even in another life, is what's going to have to continue us and continue with us. When Raymond Moody and his wonderful video of Life After Life he talks to the people that are in it, talk about seeing their life after they've passed over and seeing the things that they need to pay attention to, not be punished for. And the critical part of this whole thing of the resurrection is what Jesus was reported to have said to the people on the cross next to him, which is, I will see you.
This day will I see you in heaven.
Yes. So what he was saying is, and what's interesting about that is that they were both criminals. And he was saying to them, you and I will be in the same place, not, sorry, guys, you messed up and it's not going to be good for you. There's going to be a lot of heat, or at least broken air conditioner. And what he was saying is that we're all in this together forever and ever and ever. And what I really wanted to say today, for myself as well, and I need to hear this as much as I think anyone else needs to hear this, is to look at every action that you take in terms of the eternality of it, not in terms of the right now of it. And when I look at cultures,
the eternality, is that what you said?
Yes, eternality. Yeah, I didn't speak it as clearly as I haven't had my third cup of coffee. And But the eternality of life, if you think about what's going to be the consequence way, way down the road, what am I going to have to learn from this? What will I have to face because of this that I haven't figured out? I think it makes us kinder. I think it makes us maybe a little slower to be as reactive as we sometimes are, because we know when we're very reactive, very often we spend an awful lot of time having to try to overcome all of the damage that we've done with our reaction. Well, imagine the damage having reverberations, and the reverberations are what we're going to have to pay attention to in our learning so that we then can evolve.
Exactly. I was just hearing a phrase in my head from A Course in Miracles, and that phrase is, "I am not a body. I am free, for I'm just as God created me." And so when we think of a death, as we call death, or a passing, it really is a release. But our eternal spirit goes on. And I believe that we're here as to evolve, to be everything is a learning experience. And I was listening to a little snippet on Facebook about the class that Dr. Pamela Gray and I are teaching based on her book, Power Your Decisions. And there are openings for that, by the way, so be sure and look for that. And so what I was saying was about emotions, and that there are no bad emotions, but we call the ones that feel unpleasant negative. And I started thinking about that, so that we're just, if we're feeling good, if we're happy, all is well. But if we're feeling angry or sad or ashamed, or there's another one there somewhere, really sad, we really need to trace that back to, what was I just thinking? Because our emotions, our thoughts create our emotions, not what just happened, what you're saying to yourself about what just happened, perhaps, or what you're saying about what happened a long time ago, perhaps. But whatever it is, you just made yourself feel that way. Even if someone was acting out and very angry at you, they don't make you feel angry back. That's your reaction. So you have to notice it. You have a choice about what to do about that. You could be angry back and start a fight. You could be curious about, I wonder why they're reacting so strongly. And then you don't lose control, because when you get angry, you lose control. But the whole point of this is that I believe our emotions are there as a guidance system for us of where we're on the right track or where we're on the wrong track with our emotions,
It reminds me,
because which have to do with our actions.
I'm reminded of movies which were where the script is the thinking, and the music behind it is the soundtrack, the emotional soundtrack. And the emotional soundtrack tracks the thinking that's going on. In some cases, it's foretelling, but it's foretelling based on past experience. And so the thinking that we're doing evokes the emotion that we feel, which is a real, as you're saying, a wonderful way for us to track what's going on behind the scenes here. I remember walking down the street one time feeling good, and suddenly it's instantly depressed. And I thought, why am I depressed? And I took several steps back, kind of retracking my steps. And I just walked by a storefront, and the store music coming out of the store was an old breakup song. And I thought, oh, that's what
A
it is.
song that you associated with
It
your
was
breakup.
definitely a breakup song. Yeah, it was my breakup, but I think a lot of people were broken by that song, yeah, or broke up. But what was interesting is that immediately my unconscious thinking connected to that song, and that connected to the emotion. And why I'm saying that is we often have reactions to thinking that we're doing behind the scenes.
And sometimes it's a smell.
Yes, yeah, a taste, a smell, a fragrance, a time of the year, the air, the spring air, the first winter breeze. There's a lot of triggers. They trigger the thinking, that triggers the memory, that triggers the feeling. And so that's really, really important. I wanted to add one more thing to the thing I was talking about earlier about the eternality of life. Imagine that you get into a car and you close the door. Now imagine the car is your body. And imagine that it runs out of gas at some point, or you simply stop and get out. The person getting out of the car is not the body. The person getting out of the car is the person who got into the car, who has an eternal life. The car will rust, the car will do whatever it does. In some cases, you can take it in for plastic surgery, but it will still wear out eventually.
Exactly. And I wanted to share also a quote from Ernest Holmes. And
It's a good, great quote.
this is much like what you were saying, that even the thieves, Jesus said would be in heaven that day. So that's a key point that is not often stressed about Easter. But Ernest Holmes said, it's not merely pleasing to suppose that we pass from this life to the next in full and complete retention of our faculties. It's also logical. Jesus revealed himself to his followers after his resurrection to show them that death is but a passing to a higher sphere of life and action. And I wanted to add, and not just him, but also the thieves. So that's a huge lesson for all of us, and it should make us feel really less frightened about the end of our lives. Our ego part of ourself is all about protecting us while we're on earth. And so it's very responsible for our wanting to cling and stay on forever and have our loved ones stay with us. And of course, we are sad when we lose a loved one or they pass on, but we really need to be celebrating for them because they're free. They are no longer a body, they are free.
And it doesn't mean we don't get to miss them. We don't feel the sadness that
Yeah.
goes with the lack of their physical presence. But I think it's a huge difference. And you and I both, as well as everyone by this time who's been on, who's on on our Zoom meeting today, you've experienced losses. And just to know that that person who's passed on is continuing on their journey and may even reconnect with us in this lifetime or in the next, that there's something about that that just feels to me so reassuring and so much better than if it weren't that way.
We still always feel a loss of our
Sure.
person because they're not with us anymore. But that loss is so lessened by knowing that they're free, and they are they're good. You know, they're good. We're the ones still fighting our battles here, or enjoying ourselves here. Could be either way or both from time to time. Um, so so often we think of Easter as about the crucifixion, but it's not about the crucifixion. It's about the resurrection, and that's what we're celebrating.
You know, a subtle thing that's really interesting too is we give our kids Easter eggs, we give our kids chocolate, we give them sugar, we give them candy. And but the rabbit, which is really interesting, the bunny, one of the things that at least when I grew up, bunnies were best known for was their ability to multiply and the
That's right.
fertility. And so on the one hand, you know, we're talking about a loss. On the other hand, we're talking about a resurrection. And I think in a very strange way, the bunnies who continually say, "Oh, we will continue, and life will continue," and the eggs
Mhm.
are again fertility. But I'd like to suggest it's a fertility of the soul. It's a
Mhm.
fertility of the life ever giving, ever creating, ever reproducing. And that's often not what we feel when we think about death and dying, or we think even about Easter. And I think the days up to Easter are often for many people filled with great sadness. And because it isn't until the resurrection, I guess, that feel allowed to celebrate that life is a continuum. But for some people, it's a celebration that doesn't really have any depth because they don't really believe that life continues. And that's sad. And it means a loss of the recognition of who it is you really are.
And who it is you really are is one with the Creator, one with the Creator.
That's
I
huge.
have a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, who used to be the most read author in America, and his essays are very
Now
profound.
it's Stephen King.
We we have a class on Emerson's essays, and they are very deep. But this is what Ralph Waldo Emerson said: "You are an inlet, and may become an outlet to all there is in God. All there is in God. All there is, not just good enough, not just making do, but all there is. Let your allness be revealed. Release your inner beauty. Unleash your imprisoned splendor." So he's reminding us that because we are one with the Creator, with the divine creative energy of the universe, there are no limits to what we can create. And we create it with the power of our minds, meaning knowing that the power is there, knowing there is nothing to impede our success in experiencing whatever it is we want to be or do or experience. So this is very freeing
It
to
is.
know there's no one saying, except maybe your relatives, oh, you can't do that. That
You-
makes no sense. Your best friends and your relatives might be the only ones who could stop you. But this is a wonderful time, this springtime, this new life. Everything is popping up, flowers and clover and all of that. And so it's a time to remind us that we too can create newness in our life, can create new experiences, new ideas. A woman who is in one of the classes where I did that exercise said this spring she is going to Ireland with her husband because that was something that came to her that she wanted to experience when I led that exercise. And she said, why not? I can go to Ireland.
Sure.
And so she is, and she's a singer and a speaker, and she has one gig over there. So I just love hearing stories about experiences or ventures or things people have decided they can do that. They can experience that out of something that I've led.
That's huge. And I guess the question I would ask is what have you done in your life? What thinking have you done in your life that is impairing your idea of you that keeps you limited? What is it? What's the limited thinking that comes out of an experience maybe you've had in the past or what people have told you about who you are that keeps you from doing what it is that you're here to do, need to do, want to do, desire to do? And I think without realizing it, we often live in little boxes of people's ideas of us that we incorporate and include as our own ideas of ourselves, and we live in those limitations. And I think if we would look at the worst thing you've ever done that you wished you hadn't done and ask yourself, what did I learn from that? And would I be the same person now had I not had the experience and learned what I've learned? And so if we're being governed by the past, we can't have the present or the future that we'd like to have. If we can look at it and say, that's over, I learned what I needed to learn, I will not allow it to limit me. I can have the life that I'm entitled to have, that actually God, that divine intelligence, whatever you want to call it, wants me to have, because I really believe we're here to have the best life possible.
I think I shared this quote by Garrison Keeler last week, but I'm going to talk about it
You did,
again.
and it was good.
Garrison Keeler said, and this is, I'm using this example because Jesus also did not let his mission be altered by what people expected of him. And what they expected of him when he entered in Jerusalem was to conquer the Romans. They were the persecutors of the Jews at that time. And so they fully expected their Messiah to conquer the Romans. And instead, he came to change them.
Mm.
Now, it took 300 years. Took 325 years, I think, before the conversion of the official religion of Rome to be Christianity, but it did happen. So that's a pretty amazing story, also an event.
It's interesting to think about having to conquer the past. We have to conquer the past in order to be able to live in the present. The way to conquer the past is to face it, accept it, understand it, appreciate it, approve of it, and allow ourselves to move forward because of it. And we can do that. We have had so many marvelous experiences that we didn't like and that didn't feel good, that we learned from and grew from and that have grown us. And so if we look at all of this as a divine experience of unfoldment, it's just difficult then to live in limitation.
Indeed. So we wish you all a very happy Easter day today. We are going to share a screen right now and invite you to support or continue supporting this ministry. We've got them both up at once.
That's okay.
Mute all. What's going on here?
There we go.
Okay, here we are. This is our little reminder of ways to donate. And by the way, this is how you also can go to the class and register for this. It's going on, the class is going on one monthly. So one in April, the 20th, one in May, and one in June. So you have time to digest it and really work with the material. And right down here, um, which is on when you go to classes, it's also the first one that's on there. And there's a place for you to register for one or more of the classes. Well, right now we're talking about supporting the ministry, and you may do that. Most of you have it already set up to do it automatically, and we really appreciate that. But we are at cslpalmbeaches.org. This is the first page of the website, and not with the affirmation of prosperity here, but with other things. So shall we say the
Yes.
affirmation? My investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is.
So stop share up here. Here we go. And we're back. Let's stop recording.
I am looking for the recording.